Hello dear readers and subscribers. For this week's video, I have a very exciting conversation for you with Ajay Kurian, a contemporary artist, also the founder of New Crits, and he has also something new to share with New Crits. And we have a very interesting conversation about that beyond the art market and what typically most artists chase or feel that they have to chase, which is working with galleries and generating sales, that there is also this entire institutional realm of different types of opportunities that are often also overlooked as artists. So we briefly discuss what those opportunities include, how to navigate them, how to get involved, also some more specific topics, what the main challenges of those institutions are, lots of stuff to unpack, and I think the conversation could have been a lot longer even, because sometimes we briefly have to touch on certain topics. And I also really welcome you to have a look at what they're also offering with New Crits, especially Intro Crits, which is a very low barrier way to get in touch with them, to work with them. And I've heard very positive things from other artists who follow our community here with contemporary artists that have worked with New Crits, and also their free critical care package. So I'll link to all those things in the description below, and now please sit back and enjoy our conversation. I know I did very much. Hi Ajay, great to have you once more. How have you been and how is New Crits doing?
Hey Julien, it's good to see you again. Things are good. Things are really busy. World is on fire, so there are some things to think about. But, I'm still working in art education, still making exhibitions. New Crits is good, and we're just going to keep building.
For today's conversation, we'll be focusing a bit more on institutional exhibitions and opportunities for artists and how artists can navigate them. And I would like to start actually with an artwork, one of my favorite artworks. It's a logo for America by Alfredo Jar, which iconically stated, "This is not America," when showing the United States, kind of as a critical comment that the United States appropriated the term America to refer to their own country, whereas America is more than the United States. And I feel we can draw a parallel here with the art market and the art world, which are terms that are being used interchangeably, almost as if the entire art world is the art market. As a result, this institutional realm is very often overlooked, and especially by artists. See that when I discuss artist careers, or the artists are predominantly looking for opportunities within that art market, galleries, collectors, fairs, etc. Do you believe that the institutional realm of the art world is often overlooked? And if so, why do you think this happens?
I think it depends what you mean about overlooked. I think, the headlines that tend to grab people's attention tend to be market things. They tend to be auction prices and all that kind of nonsense. And I think there's many art worlds that exist outside of that, and the institutional world being one of them. Part of that is just that there's more clicks available for rage baity headlines where people need something to get upset about, and real investment is, not always the easiest thing to come by. But I also wonder if there's something self-defeating in an artist sometimes, where when you have something to villainize, when you can say like, that art world sucks and that's why I'm not a part of it, and that's why I do this thing over here, and so things are quiet because I don't want to participate in that. I think that's maybe one part of it. And then the other part is that, it doesn't get coverage. So why would people know? And like, where are the outlets to learn about these things? And where are the outlets to understand what the institutional art world really is?
Could you broadly sketch what the institutional art world consists of and what opportunities it offers to artists?
Yeah, I'm broadly speaking, let's see. We have institutions, we have residencies, we have public works, we have research centers, Kunsthalles, art centers that are not collecting institutions. And I think there's also like a lot of uncharted territory when it comes to what we call institutional. You know, something that I would, ask people to think about is, for instance, there are a lot of science-based organizations or universities that are, I think, very often interested in artistic collaboration. And I feel like people don't realize that, if you have a body of work or if you have a set of ideas that would be compelling to people in the sciences, that all you have to do is just send an email and say that you're interested in their work and that you'd love to set up a meeting because some of the things that you do over here might be interesting to the people over there. And those are also other avenues where like that could start the beginning of a research project and building something of your own where, the university might have a little bit of money within that department to say, hey, why don't we try this thing out? I'm not saying that that's like a surefire thing, but I do think that there's a lot of opportunities that for like co-evolution in new ways that I think are unexplored and have nothing to do with the commercial art world.
When it comes to these opportunities, what would kind of be a realistic roadmap or action plan for artists to pursue those opportunities?
I don't think that there's like a roadmap that I could give so clearly like that. I think it depends on what your interests are and what you're thinking about. But what I would say is that rather than limiting yourself to saying, well, I need to make commercial work, I need to put things on walls and make sure that that fits in a certain room and all of that, which is no shade to anybody who is thinking that way or working that way or finds great fulfillment that way. What I mean is that if you have ideas in your head where you're really thinking about whale song and you don't know how to make that commercially viable, I don't think you necessarily need to start there. I don't think you necessarily need to think about it as like a how to build a market out of whale song. I think you can just start seeing like what are the most fascinating things about that, and are there people that I can talk to that might also want to help in this project. And so that might take you to a wildlife center, that might take you to another kind of science university. It can take you should just follow where it goes to the fullest extent that you can take it, and leave the distinctions between like where art should be and where the science should be behind when it comes to just museums in general, and like trying to figure out how does my work get placed in public collections. That's a longer story, and it's not always, it's almost never linear. Sometimes the market is very deeply related to that, and sometimes it isn't. And what I can really say for any artist out there is that the one path that you can always trust is the one that's really propelling you forward and making you feel excited about going to the studio and showing up every day, because everything else is going to feel forced and it's eventually going to fall away. The advice that I can give in terms of how to kind of find your way into institutions and things like that, honestly, it's it's exciting. Young spaces are really a lot of times where the young curators will go. The people that end up in institutions, a lot of them, if you're in a cohort, if you're in an art scene, they're sometimes the people that are already around you, and they're going to end up in those places. If you're not in a major city, then what I would suggest is really trying to find your local scenes and trying to understand what is most exciting about that scene and where is the energy highest. and start going to those places and start meeting those people, because anybody that has the ambition to be putting exhibitions together in other places and be showing in other places, like follow that ambition, follow your ambition and follow other people's, because it's not about seeing what they do and following them in a kind of sheep-like way. It's more so that it makes me think of when I was coming up and 47 Canal had just started, and it was this party space before that called 179 Canal. And the people that were showing up there were, a lot of the movers and shakers today. And they, nobody, like, it was just a very, very small insular scene back in the day. And of course, I know that New York is different, and I'm not saying that this applies to every single place, but from what I have seen and what I understand, you really should go towards where you're attracted to the energy. And when you start seeing people who are interested in bigger things and larger shows, start conversations with them, see what they're excited about, see what they're interested in. I say this all the time, like, whenever you're trying to sort of network and do that kind of thing that people hate doing, it's not about networking. It's not about like trying to be savvy in these things. It's about looking for people that you're really excited about, who are in the same world that you're in, and paying attention to what they do. And so when you have a conversation with them, you're an actual fan, and you are there to sort of let them know that they're valued. And when you let someone else know that they're valued, they in turn look to you to see, oh, so what are you bringing to the table, and what's going on in your head? And it doesn't feel like this transactional thing. It feels like, oh shit, I see them and they see me. And that's kind of the beginning of a new relationship that, maybe down the line becomes a professional relationship. But at the very beginning, like, you need to think about it as a core, like, do I fuck with this person or not? Am I excited about what they're doing or not? And I really do think that that's always been the best roadmap for me. Follow a certain level of integrity to the things that excite you most. And maybe the kind of additional information there is that the things that excite you might take you out of your comfort zone and might make you feel like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready for that, or I don't know if I can meet that. That's actually where you want to go. You want to go to the places that make you a little uncomfortable and a little scared, because if you're not scared, you're not really pushing yourself yet.
The commercial art world is very sales driven. That is where the money comes from for everybody to do their job and earn a living. Where does the money come from in the institutional art worlds?
The money comes from all sorts of places, some of them good and some of them very bad. And I think what we're seeing right now is, a reappraisal of where money comes from for the institutions that we hold dear. So, for instance, there was a lot of controversy in the 2019 Whitney Biennial because Warren Kanders was on the board at the time, and he's been connected to many companies that were manufacturing arms, and so there was a big push to get him off the board. Now, if you look at the boards of many museums, you're going to find people that have made their money in relatively unsavory ways, and this is something that I think the art world is still contending with. So there is that to think about. This is a far from perfect world, and I think we're starting to see that the institutions that we thought were somehow neutral or culturally progressive are potentially connected to all the same horrible things that we're fighting to liberate ourselves from.
Sometimes artworks that fit best in an institutional context, they can be quite expensive to create. And in contrast to, for instance, for the commercial art world, where you can create works on spec and then hopefully sell them later on, with these more ambitious, monumental projects, this is a bit more difficult. Very often, artists therefore submit portfolios and applications without including any realized artworks yet, because they haven't had an opportunity to show them that they can deliver or what they have in them. What is the best way for an artist to work around this catch-22 situation?
Okay, so again, I'm going to speak from my experience. I don't know everything that there is out there, but there are times when, you know, the projects that you've done before prepare you for the project to come. So that will be, you know, a curator sees an exhibition at a certain scale, and they're excited to challenge you to a much larger scale that you've never tried before. So then institutional money comes through, I mean, a little bit, and you're given a more ambitious project. How do you propose something like that? It's a gamble. I mean, I know that I don't think I'm like revealing any secrets here when I say that like Kevin Beasley was meant to be in the 2017 Whitney Biennial. Instead, that turned into a solo exhibition where he showed a sculpture that was a cotton gin that he had had for God knows how long. And he had enclosed it in this box and made it soundproof. Anyways, you should look it up. It's a great exhibition. If you don't already know it, maybe you already do. I think that was an occasion where a smaller conversation, or like a conversation about like a show, a much larger show, turned into a solo show, most likely because, you know, Kevin had some ideas that were really exciting and maybe couldn't fit into a show like the Whitney Biennial. I think a lot of it is feeling extremely certain about the power of what you're doing, almost to a delusional extent, and sharing that and believing that you really need to see this happen and looking for people to try to make that happen. The other thing that I would say about that is that a lot of times 3D models, maquettes, sketches, drawings, all these ideas, they can be integral in sharing ideas at a much larger scale. And the more that you can flesh that out, especially like if you know budgets and things, if you can show an institution, like if you're already in talks with an institution and you want something much bigger, if you have a sense of like how much this is actually going to cost, and you have a sense of how that can be broken down, how it can be fully itemized and understood, even like almost coming with a deck, that is very valuable for institutions. Like that gives them the sense that, okay, this isn't an artist that's just going to be throwing away money because they don't know exactly how to scale this up. They're looking at the facts that you do know how to scale this up.
Many artists and art enthusiasts in general often have the feeling that institutions prefer political art, most likely because of certain goals the institution has set out, because it is working, for instance, with public funding, so with public resources, so it needs to fulfill a public purpose, an educational one, a critical one, a political one, etc. Does this mean that artists who do not create political art, that they are less favorable for the institutional art world, or that this is not the place for them to pursue a career?
I think it's safe to say that there are works of art that are more public facing that can sometimes be of interest to institutions. Does that mean that people who make art that is not political, does that mean that it's uninteresting to curators? You have to sort of define the stories that you want to tell about your work and see how it's going to hit with the people that you're talking to. So that doesn't mean changing the core of who you are and what you're about, but there are many facets to, I think, any artist's work. And I think there are ways of pulling out certain parts of the work that can be more or less interesting to a person that you're talking to, and knowing who you're talking to and knowing the things that they're interested in can help facilitate that conversation.
So if you are a painter and, you know, you have largely a formal practice, imagine that you're still, you know, a thinking person in the world that's wondering how things are going to turn out and trying to figure out your place in things. And I feel like that always kind of has an influence on how we make and what we're thinking about. And if those internal conflicts are finding their way onto the surface in any way, shape, or form, there is a oblique political conversation to be had where your sensitivities are reaching a surface. And I think that's a conversation that you can have with the curator or someone who's interested in the work, not to brand yourself as political or anything like that, but to give a fuller scope of the fact that these are preoccupations. They might just be filtered into the work in a very different way.
What is the current state of the institutions of our art world? We live in uncertain times. Public funding is often withdrawn, or budget cuts have to be made. Also here in Europe, what are the main challenges that the institutions are currently facing? What are the main dangers and hurdles that we must overcome? And how do you see the future of our institutions?
I think I alluded to this a little bit before. The current state of art institutions is that they are in an enormous amount of flux, for better and for worse. A lot for worse, but some silver linings. The Geffen galleries at LACMA just opened, and the non-hierarchical approach to curation looks really exciting, and it feels the way that artists would curate a show. I know I'm being biased, and I'm sure curators are probably not happy with me saying that, but they have it's nice to see people trying to open up academicism and scholarship in such a way that it allows for exciting ways to see how the past can live in the present. And I think that's what we see in those galleries, which is super cool. On the flip side, in structural ways, we really have to figure out where we want our money for these institutions to come from, because I'm not saying all billionaires are the worst people on earth, but if you have many billions of dollars, it's very likely that there might have been some serious exploitation along the way. So if that's how we want our museums to function and how we want service to function, then we're fine and things can go as usual. If we want something different, and if we want something more emancipatory and more artist-led, we're going to have to rethink a lot.
Thank you so much for answering all these questions. It's a topic that not a lot of information is available about, especially online. It's also a topic that we haven't covered as extensively here on the channel. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and expertise so generously. And on a final note, could you tell us a bit more about intro crits? Because there is more you can do for our audience, for artists.
So I'd love to tell everybody a bit about intro crits. So New Crits has been live for the last 2 years, and now we are offering intro crits, which are 45-minute crits with almost all of our mentors, and you get really dedicated feedback, and it's really, really affordable. It's $89. Every single penny of that will go to the artist that you're meeting with. New Crits does not take a cut of that right now. And I think it's a great way to support the artist. It's a great way to get really directed feedback. You'll submit your work beforehand so that the artist mentor has some time to look at it before. And then you jump right in. They have seen the work, and they're going to be able to give you things to think about in the studio, ways to move the work forward, and you'll just have a better sense of what you want to do next. So it's a really easy way to see the benefits of what mentorship at such just that introductory level can provide. And I'm hoping that it's something that once people understand what a crit can do for your work, that they'll be back for more. So take a look, go to our website, and if you have any questions, you can always sign up for a free discovery call with me, and I will answer everything that I can.
Wonderful, that sounds very exciting. And I've only heard good things from our artists community so far that have engaged with new crits as well after our previous recommendation, whether that was through participating in one of the courses or through the mentorship you offer. So thank you for supporting artists.
As always, Julien, it's great to be in conversation, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to, just let me talk about new crits on your platform, and just appreciate it a lot. Hope all's well. Thanks.
There we have it. I hope you've found this conversation helpful. If you have additional questions about the conversation or about this topic, do ask them in the comment section below, or ask them to Ajay if they are new crits related. And I simply strongly recommend working with new crits. That being said, thank you very much for tuning in today. Feel free to watch our video on whether or not it is still possible to create great art today next. Support us on Patreon, and please consider subscribing to stay posted for more contemporary art. Bye.